it's shrinking the self-centeredness. Yeah.
Okay.
See,
Okay.
Self-centeredness cannot shrink the self-centeredness. That would be enlarging it. But there's a shrinking of the self-centeredness. Obviously, many of us have realized self isn't going to get out of self. So there's no, I mean, you can, it's like teaching an old dog new tricks in a lot of ways. It may learn based on its own interests, but it'll forget quickly. So the whole point isn't self being moved to another center, because the center is called self-centered. It's self is the center. Yeah. So when you go anywhere else, travel with this idea of self, you become the center of it. Yeah. You travel to Buddhism, you're the self that's centered. It's centered. The Buddhism is now centered in self. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the point of the negation of the system, not the, I'm going to work so hard, I'm going to transfer the system to a centered system. No, as soon as self gets there, it's a self-centered system. You got to see the thievery before the crime. If you see it after the crime, you're going to look at other people and blame them. But if you see the thievery before the crime, it explains everything. Yeah. Self is what has defeated us. It's that simple. Yeah. How does it defeat us? Through its manifestations.
Yeah.
How can I know that I'm in the defeat of it? If you're calling its manifestations yours, that's a pretty good indication. You're in the act of being identified as self, obviously. Yeah. See it from there, and it explains a lot in a different way than how the self explains shit. Yeah.
And then you also can start laughing about it. At least I noticed this.
Oh, yeah, of course. Laughing is one of the first things hope gives you, is the ability to laugh at your predicament. Yeah. And then
over here in Holland, they sometimes get really pissed off if you start laughing in the rooms, no? About if you hear a share, and they take it way too serious over here.
Well, you gotta, I don't know. I think they would take it seriously in Germany too. Maybe go to Italy and stuff. That may work.
Yeah, and I heard a few
Hold
things
on,
about
come around the side.
You can laugh or you can cry about something.
We have some people coming here. I don't know why. They're going around the wrong. Yeah, go that way. That way. Around. Over there. Yeah. The blind leading the blind. Yeah. Yes, come on in. I'm on the Zoom. Amelia's on a Zoom. Yeah.
You about ready to get this rolling, Paul?
Oh, great. Thank you. Put it on the table, all right? You don't mind? Hey, have safe travel. Yeah. Safe travels. Yeah.
See you later.
The jacket looks good. Yeah. Great. Thank you. All right. Say hello. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Yeah. Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. All right, everybody.
You don't understand. I live in a public place.
Oh, yeah, I do. I've been there.
We're trying to do the Ramana Maharshi thing, sleeping in the middle of the meeting room. Yes. There you go.
You're good.
I got my toothbrush over here. Yes.
Ready to go, huh?
I'm just glued to Zoom all day. Yeah. I'm ghostwriting a lot of other non-duality teachers. I write the whole script for them. Yes. You see their mouth moving, but it's yes. Yeah.
I'm going to mute everybody. And Paul, you got to unmute.
Some way.
All right, welcome to the Thursday Paul Hedderman meeting. My name's Kurt Zimmerman. And just a few things before we start. This is not an AA meeting. It's Paul H's reflections on the exact nature of the wrong described on page 64 of the big book and the solution found in the 12 steps. Being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. So the meeting is being recorded. It'll be on Facebook. Not Facebook, YouTube later on. Also, remember, this is not an all-share meeting. Rather, it's question and answers or comments for Paul's H's take on the 12 steps. For details on Paul's events, his story, under arrest, books, fabulous t-shirts, past events videos, check out zenbitchslap.com. So let's get things underway. I've selected a passage. In the passage, Paul, it's a couple of them. Bottom of page 53, and I'm going to start right in kind of the middle of a paragraph at the bottom of the page. We were grateful that reason had brought us so far, but somehow we couldn't quite step ashore. Perhaps we've been leaning too heavily on reason that last mile and did not like to lose our support. That was natural, but let us think a little more closely. Without knowing it, had we not been brought here by a certain kind of faith? For did we not believe in our own reasoning? Did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a sort of faith? Yes, we've been objectively faithful to the God of reason. So in one way or another, we discovered that faith had been involved all along, all the time. We found too that we'd been worshipers. What a state of mental goof rush that used to bring on. Have we not variously worshiped people, sentiment, things, money, ourselves? And then with a better motive, had we not worshipfully beheld the sunset, a sea, a flower? Who of us had not loved something or somebody? How much did these feelings, these loves, these worships have to do with pure reason? Little or nothing. We saw at last. Were not these things the tissue out of which our lives were constructed? Did not these feelings, after all, determine the course of our existence? It was impossible to say we had no capacity for faith, love, or worship. In one form or another, we'd been living by faith and little else. That's the reading, Paul.
Well, yeah. Well, this is a very revelatory reading. It usually doesn't get emphasized. Page 52, 53, 54. But let's say, obviously, we think we're a body and everything. Let's just, okay, move from there. But really in action, what are we? Faith, yeah? So when people say they don't have faith, that's faith in that, yeah? There's faith is always behind everything. And in recovery, they say there's only two possibilities, or perhaps the better way and then the other way. And one of them was trusting finite self. And what is that but faith in finite self, yeah? Or faith in the infinite. So basically, there's a difference. They are implying a great difference between finite self and the infinite. But the important aspect of both is faith, yeah? So there's either faith in finite self or there's faith in the infinite, yeah? So faith is not finite self. There's faith in finite self, yeah? So we are faith, let's say, and we are not self. Just like it describes in the exact nature of the problem that self has defeated us, yeah? So let's say us equals faith. So When there's faith in the finite self, we know what we get. When there's faith in the infinite, we find out what we have, which is awesome. Yeah. But faith is behind everything. And this is the big book of AA. So if you're a thumper or whatever, or big book Nazi or whatever, or connected to this book, well, read it. These people are saying right here, faith in little else. Yeah. So faith is really the cause of the conditions we find ourselves in. What? Yeah. I thought it was you or me or her or the boss or my upbringing. No, faith. Faith in what you see as the boss. Faith in what you see as that you. Faith in what you believe in the upbringing. Do you believe trauma defeats you or faith in the trauma? Yeah. A lot of people have trauma, gone through trauma, and how they went through it was totally different. The same trauma. So it's not the trauma. It's what's before it. And we're not really before it. Let's say if we replace me before it and put faith there, it's a huge understanding can open up. Yeah. So as supposedly Jesus used to talk about, as you believe, so it is. It's done according to your faith. They emphasize it when you read Emmett Fox, the Sermon on the Mount. A lot of people in AA go to there. He talks about faith. Faith is a force. I don't mean a faith. Faith, not a faith, not Catholicism or something. Faith. What is Catholicism other than the faith that's put in it? Yeah. What's the stock market? What's the stock market other than the faith that's put in it? Yeah. It's just numbers. Yeah. Yeah. Yet there's such a belief in it, those numbers mean a lot. And so they can acquire bigger numbers and shit. Yeah. But faith is the force that's doing everything. And what has defeated us is the manifestations of self, but what was the fuel of that defeat was faith in self. What did faith in self look like where I sat? Believing the thoughts that were being presented all day. Because the thoughts, you may think they're yours. Okay, let's call them yours, but they're infected with alcoholism. Yeah? Most alcoholics think very similarly. They feel things very similarly, and they act out very similarly. You can't override. How can you be special if everyone has your thoughts? How could they be yours? Yeah. But what's driving the meaning the thoughts produce is faith in the thoughts. That's what allows the head to play God is not the head, it's the faith in it. Yeah. And this is why it says perhaps there's a better way. Trusting the infinite rather than finite self. And then they need to have clear warnings about that, which we learned in the program. In the early days, they came to a conclusion, self can't get out of self. What? So they probably attempted to have faith in the infinite, all the while taking themselves to be self. So there was a previous faith they weren't noticing in self that was limiting the effects of faith in the infinite. Yeah, because it was preceded by faith in self. This is why the recovery goes into levels. Yes, remember the drinking is not their symptoms, the underlying causes and conditions. There's causes and conditions, and then there are other underlying causes and conditions. There is a bottom, and I'll tell you something, you run into faith there. Yeah. It's like that's what we are. We're force. That's why false evidence can appear real. How can false evidence, the acronym for fear in our program, false evidence, how can it appear real? It appears real to us. Yeah. The false evidence is being presented by self, and it appears real to us. And now the us is seemingly lost, and we live the life of self. But self is not what's recognizing the false evidence. Faith is. Faith is. Yeah. Self presents false evidence, and we give it life through the faith in it. Yeah. So there's faith in that which is playing God, and that's what's allowing it to play God. Yeah. Are you going to try to stop it from playing God? Forget about it. That's what it does. It plays God. It forecasts. It ruminates. It goes over shit. It makes big things out of little things and little things out of big things. Yeah. There's no point. You can only change it on the the outskirts. Yeah. You're not going to get to the center of it, which is self, because you're going to try to change it as self. This is how we get defeated. Self can't get out of self. That's why we do the steps, the working steps to do what? The whole effect of the program is based on loss of interest in self on page 63. Losing interest in self, we suddenly gain interest in others and see how we can contribute to light. The whole way we look at things changes because now faith is put into something else. Yeah. The faith that was in self is gone somewhere else. Let's call it the infinite. Now we see through the same eyes, but we see differently. Yeah. That which is playing God depends on our faith being put in it. When that faith is extracted, that's when you start laughing at it. That's when you realize, Jesus Christ. That's real. It's like a GPS that never goes off, but you rarely follow its directions. Yeah. You're going straight, it's going left. You know how when you don't follow it, it stops for a second or so? That's the pause. Yeah. That's the pause. That's the effect of what we describe. When you're not listening to it, there's a pause in it. Yeah. Because what keeps it playing is us. Yes. It doesn't have it. It's not the infinite scroll. It's not solar powered. It doesn't run itself. It runs itself through us. When you lose interest in it, its effects diminish. Yes. Even though it's talking the same fucking game, it's not producing the effects it used to produce. It's not getting you to the fucking liquor store and buying you the vodka. It ain't. Yeah. The problem does not exist now for you anymore. Because it has, not because you rehabbed it, the power has been withdrawn. Yeah, it's that simple. Has your head actually changed through 30 years of sobriety? I don't see so. I don't see it that much. Am I having gloriously selfless thoughts all day? No, it doesn't seem to pick up on that at all. It does the same old fucking same old. Yeah. But it's been diminished, not by changing it, but by losing interest in it. And I'm clear. I'm going to put this clearly. It is diminished not by changing it, but by losing interest in it. You lose interest in it, and then the CNN broadcasts become Comedy Central. You start laughing about yourself. You can laugh about your past. Because it's fucking hilarious. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Yeah. So faith is incredibly, supremely important. And if you could look through you and see faith, it would explain a whole lot. Really. What gives life to resentment but faith? Yeah. Faith in the resentment, it's pretty much obvious when it's called my resentment. There's now faith going through to the resentment. Then a seeming slight years ago can be gone over and over again for fucking years. Yes? It's insane. So self-centeredness, self is not going to be centered in anything else but self-centeredness. Yeah? You bring it to Buddhism, you're going to be a self-centered Buddhist in a lot of levels. Kabbalah, self-centered Kabbalah. Fucking yoga, self-centered yogi. Yes. The self-centered, it applies itself to every system you're introduced to. It co-opts the system and becomes the center of the system. Yes? I don't see how you're going to change it. Self in Buddhism, self-centered. Self in fucking MMA, self-centered. Self in business, self-centered. Yeah, it seems to take with it the centeredness wherever it goes. Yeah, plants its flag in something, and then it's all about you again. I don't see, why would you want to waste any more time working on it? Yeah. In the beginning, yes, in recovery, you got to break those habits. But once the habits are broken, you're not going to prepare it for the spiritual Special Olympics. It's not going to, it's not, that's not its thing. Yeah. It wants to see everything as how it pertains to you. That's what it does. So the you that you're not, which is insane. So this is my humble experience in 35 years. You know, you're not, it's like in Zen, they would, it's like trying to paint legs on a snake. Yes. Or lipstick on a pig. It's not going to change the overall pig look. Yes. So, yeah. I hope something gets through, because without a clarity of what self is and ain't and its activities, you may be looking from it without knowing it. Yeah. And therefore, the faith that you represent may be misdirected to something you would rather not have faith in. Yeah. So without you knowing it, the faith that we represent is being funneled into self. Wouldn't that be, yeah? So you're getting like a huge PG&E bill, and you're wondering, where's all the usage of this electricity? Well, both my neighbors have jacked into my PG&E and are lighting up their houses and their fucking jacuzzis and everything else with supposedly our PG&E. Yeah, that's why the bills are astronomical. Yes? Let's get down to the exact nature of shit. Yeah, so that's it. I could be completely wrong. But until I know that with incredible convincing, we're going to be sharing this invitation. Because I humbly believe it can open up a vista for you, where you're going to have knowledge of self instead of living in self-knowledge. Yeah. You'll see it as not you, and there's a possibility of being free from it. Yes. You may not know it, but you may be right now attempting to be free as self, which is the bondage. It uses freedom to bond you. It uses everything it gets into contact with by us to bond us with. It uses everything. You would think spiritual paths would be immune. It isn't. It's full of it. Yeah. It just grows a spiritual identity. Yeah. Just like it's described in the book, where the self-centered character may be virtuous and kind, but isn't it self-centeredness? Yes, exactly. This is the dilemma. Yeah. This isn't about I was bad and now I'm going to be good. Yeah. There's bondage in both aspects. Because self is what was seemingly bad, and self is now what is seemingly being good. Yes. The bondage continues. Yeah. Didn't you remember? I don't know, but I had an idea when I came in. You know, I used to act out there badly in a lot of levels, but there was one level of that I would act out, and my great investigation came to the conclusion it was based on my cocaine use. So I was walking around with this belief, if I ever stopped using coke, this would stop. You know how I was proven wrong completely? I got sober, I hadn't used coke, and I acted out the exact same way. So it wasn't the cocaine. The cocaine amplified it, did some, added some color to it, but it wasn't the source of it. It was this obsession with self. Yeah. I was revealed that hundreds of times coming into AA. I thought I knew what the problem was. No. Me thinking I knew what the problem was the problem. I had faith in self, and it was telling me, sending me off on wild goose chases. It was them that did it. It was this that did it. Yeah. The elephant in the room has a very, very large trunk, and it's always pointing in other directions. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Paul. So I like that because in the beginning of that, it said without knowing it.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I think that was, I didn't know it for, I don't know, 20 years probably in program. But it also made a big difference when you defined what faith was as a dependence on something, not a faith, like you said.
Yeah.
And I always say, thank God I'm not suffering from what's not happening anymore. And it's, I've said it before in this meeting. I said, I came in with rusty handcuffs, and then I just had gold ones on, but I was still handcuffed, and I was in the program.
Yes.
That's
many of our experience. That's why, and a lot of people then leave or search outside the program. I like going outside the program and bringing what you find back in.
Yeah, right.
A better move. Yeah. Yeah. So that you can find something that came outside the program in the program. So this idea, because the head would love to find an exit ramp.
Yeah.
Program. It does.
Yeah.
And if it has some meaning, like great meaning, like Buddhism, it'll drive off, and then there'll be a drunk Buddhist. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I make this clarification all the time it says be quick to see where religious people are right. It does not say be quick to see that religious people are right.
Yeah. And you can, whatever you find, you can bring back to the community. Yeah.
So
it's not like, look at every group in the history. When sometimes a group got established, if people brought a new idea in, they would be blasphemous or heretics or shit. Yeah. So a lot of things that were in a growing stage, and they needed to grow out of a fundamentalist. The people that were the seeds to allow that to happen was seen as radical clerics or fucking, terrorists, or lead everyone to drink. It's just the way, like large groups of people, that's what happens. We get arthritic, and then the whole point of something is going to constantly realize more gets sort of stopped in a way. All right, this is it. This is only it. But this is a growing, living message. Yeah. So sometimes you have a favorite T-shirt, but you outgrow it. Yeah. And so this is the point. There's a growth. There's a constant possibility of growth here. Yeah. And of course, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. In the long run, nothing ever happened here, literally. Seriously, my feeling. But if you want to travel lighter, if you're not traveling lighter, that should be enough drive to look at things. Yeah, maybe take another look at things, and maybe there's something that's happening without you knowing it, or you're missing it. Because basically, I would feel, being under this influence for all these years, there should be a stabilized traveling lighter, I would expect. Yeah. Yeah, because this thing works. We have a solution. Yeah.
So let's see. I don't see any hands. Anybody got anything? Mike, you got any? Michael? Stacy, you got anything? No?
Well, there was a question in the chat, and I'll
Under
just
what?
read. And it says, "Why is reason capitalized in the first paragraph? Is that the self you're talking about?" And that's from our friend Tony.
Well, it's an aspect of it. Reason would be thinking, right? The thinking. Yeah, so yes. So, and we've had abject faith in it, which is that's an incredible description. So basically, we have had abject faith in where the problem resides, which is in the mind. Yes? Obviously, the elbow isn't reasoning, the knee isn't reasoning, the intestines aren't reasoning, it's the head, the brain, let's say. Well, the problem resides in the mind, obviously, out of the big book. So the problems, its movement and its effects are really carried a lot through the thought system. Yeah. And through the thought system, a lot of us are defeated because there's great faith in the thoughts. So we're believing that that person's out to get us because the head has said that person's out to get us, though that person hasn't thought about us in years. Yeah. But the head, from a self-centered view, gets very paranoid or whatever. It has a lot of, and it starts thinking everyone's out to get you or whatever. Yeah. So you start living a very distorted view of life because you're listening to an interpretation of it from the head, from self-centeredness. Yeah. And then it says any life run on self-will, which would be self-centeredness, yeah, is hardly going to be a success. So life could be run on other aspects. It doesn't have to be self-will. It could be what people call higher power will or whatever. There's other options, but self is a very jealous system. Yeah. It doesn't want any other system to be introduced. It neuters it usually. Yeah. So, yeah. So reason, I would say, is the great faith we have in the thoughts that aren't really they're not that reliable, are they? Yeah. How many people have not gone to a job interview because their head said they're not going to get the job before the job interview? That's faith, yeah? You like somebody, but you don't want to ask them out because you feel that they're going to say no. That's faith. Yeah. Faith is in some weird shit. I remember I had it when I was a house painter. I was always afraid to give the people the estimate of the job. I just ignore it and don't do it until the last moment because I felt no matter what price it was, I was getting over on them or something. Yeah. I had great faith that I was still the thief after getting sober. Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. So faith, knowing it or without knowing it, had a great effect on this life. And I've seen what faith in the thoughts can do. Yeah. And then really, my drinking at first was a solution to where the problem resided. I wanted to get relief from the idea of self. And then look what happened with that answer. They explain it. They explain the dynamics of it. There's a decision based on self that sets off trains of circumstances that brings us misfortune we feel we don't deserve. So we get pissed off and probably resentful. That's the anatomy of what happens, yeah? Lots of decisions in our life are based on self. That's it. Yeah. I mean, it's right in the book. I don't know how we have it so mixed up that self is us. It's an incredible camouflage that it's played out. Yeah. I used to use it with the idea of a parasite, and the parasite knows its own nature and it knows it's going to be very, very hostile to the host. whatever it hosts, it's going to take over or try to, it's going to be extremely hostile and bad for that host. Yeah. So it has to come up with an incredible strategy. Or the host would, like, if a big ugly bug huge landed on you, you would knock it off without a thought. Yeah. If it landed on you 50 times, you'd knock it off every time. Why the hell don't we get out of this parasite of the bondage of self and addictions and shit? Yeah, because the parasite convinced the host that it's the host. We're listening to the parasite's view of life and trying to fucking fit ourselves around it. And some of us, it's so heavy, we can't seem to fit ourselves around it, so we drink and fucking get loaded and overdose on fentanyl and everything else. Yeah. But was the big thing in my recovery. When I saw self as foreign, it opened up the possibility of being free from it. That's how it worked. I was in a moment just like this moment, and that's what was revealed. Self was foreign to me, and I felt it through my bones. And at that point, I could be free from it. And because that point showed up, it showed me I had been trying to be free as it for years. I have been trying to be free as self for fucking years. And that is the bondage of self. Yeah. I've been trying to get out of me as me for freaking years. And I was willing to overdose purposely with the hopes that just before the body would die, I would be free from this fucking thing, for 30 seconds. And it seemed freaking worth it. I mean, I was not regarding life as that important many, many times based on the decisions I've done from self. Yeah. But the drag was, I can't get out of it as it because I'm not it. Yeah. What? Yeah. The us is so minimal. Where do we see the us capitalized? Yeah, in the book. But the us is capitalized. That's what we are. We are the us, not self. So this is the point I wanted to share because I wasn't hearing it. I still don't hear it. I'm going to go to a meeting today with one of my sponsees. Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I love the meetings. I do. It's great. The presence is in there. It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Hey, Tony, you had your hand up. Did you get it?
I did have my hand up in this. I mean, I guess, so what's the solution? Is God the solution? Like, I mean, I can't escape from this self with myself, and I can't quit playing God by myself. So I guess and even knowing, it's like, oh, I know there it is.
From the view of the recovery higher power, you don't have to call it God. The higher power may be you in disguise.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just becoming not interested in the dialogue or the narrative, like what.
Oh, you'll become that, but you won't do it. You're not going to do it. You do the program, the working steps, and they're going to produce a loss of interest in self. Because if you do an inventory and you look at how self has defeated you, you're going to see self has defeated you. And thank God, what you're going to see with this understanding that it's not you. And now you'll lose interest in that which has defeated you. And how it has defeated you is because of the interest in it. So to me, it's the perfect antidote to the exact nature of the problem. So yes, this is why when you're up the ass of self, you do service. You come out of your own orbit, which you can't do. So you do something to bring you out of the orbit. Your head is being it's like the moon is so tight, it's scraping my roof. Yeah, the moon of the head is orbiting this planet Paul so tight. It's rotating like 80 times in a day. Yeah. this is what happens. Tell the truth about that condition and then do what we suggested, which is service, and the attention and interest, the faith that you are, will be pulled out of that orbit and put into a larger space, and you'll feel what you're not feeling in this claustrophobic state. You'll feel present and available. Yeah. And then the you will run up and say, I feel present and available. And hopefully now you have been given a pair of glasses to recognize when it shows up in your life. And it immediately starts yapping as if it's the master or the owner, yet you've been in the house before it. Yes. That's what, yeah. So, yes, you lose interest in self and you gain interest in the infinite. That doesn't have to have a name. It doesn't have to have a location. Yeah. You'll find out what it is. It was very quick with me. First, I came in, they told me, hey, you can, because a lot of people have a lot of hangups about the word God and Jesus or whatever. So he said, hey, you can have a higher power of your own understanding at the beginning. It's not meant to be there for 35 years. And then, all right, I did that. And then it quickly evolved into having a higher power of its own understanding, because I recognized how small a life I was, like being a marathon runner in a closet. It was just ridiculous. And I realized I do not want a higher power of my own understanding. I've already had a lower power of my own understanding. I don't want a higher power. I think something's wrong with my understanding. So that's it. And so ever since then, that's how I see the higher power. I have a higher power of its own understanding. Hasn't changed in 30-something years. Yeah. Yeah. So find out there is a power. You can feel it in, the tradition captures it. There's a loving presence expressing itself through our group conscience. I hope that's happening now with the Zoom. Yeah. That loving presence, it can be vague, but it's everywhere. Yeah. And how it can be everywhere is it's vague. It doesn't take a specific form. It's formless, and you can sense it. You have the ability. Your antenna has just been fucking arthritically bent to pick up K-Paul all day, fucking an unclear channel. You're gonna, as soon as the program unbends the antenna, you're gonna pick up this information. Yeah, and then you can live a centered life. And not try to live a centered life as a self, which only turns into self-centered. You live a centered life. Yeah. So you're here now, like Kurt said, you're not in the realm of what's not happening. You're here now. The obviousness wins out the day. Yeah. What's happening overrides what's not happening. Yeah. The only way what's not happening can override what's happening is faith in what's not happening, because it's not happening. For it to happen, there has to be a lot of faith in the thoughts and everything. What's happening is happening. Faith or no, you're here. Yeah. It's the easy, acceptance is super easy. It's about not changing anything. You're just looking at what's happening. There's not a person that I want that's missing here, and there's not a person that's here that I want to be away. It's right here. Yeah. So acceptance is really a quite disarming, fluid thing. Yeah. You now have the ability to accept what's happening as what's happening. Wow. It's the least difficult fucking thing. You know how hard it is to accept what's not happening as overriding what's happening? That's work. That's a lot of fucking work. Yeah. Acceptance is the big bugaboo. How many meetings have you ever gone to? And one of the types is acceptance usually. Why would it be such an important topic? We seem not to be in it most of the time. Yeah, so it's like acceptance. Well, acceptance is not wanting to change anything right now. Fucking, oh, that's great. I'm in that state right at this moment. I don't want to change. There's nothing I want to change right now. Yeah. And what I could possibly think about is basically only the things in the room, and they've revealed themselves to my vision. I see them. I don't have to think about the chest. I see a chest. I don't have to think about the couch. I see the couch. I don't have to think about Kurt. I see Kurt. I don't have to think about Mickey. I see Mickey. There's no thought necessary. Yeah. But if you're entertaining a resentment now, you got to be picturing the person that's involved with that resentment. Yes? And basically, you're in what's not happening. Yeah. Acceptance is you just lose interest in that shit. And you're just recognizing what's going on. I do not have to think about the kitchen that's right next to me. I can see it. Yeah. It's just insane. I remember when I used to house paint, I didn't think much about the job. I was never surprised. There used to be 4 walls usually, some windows, maybe a skylight. It was never like I was going to paint a sphere or something. It was, yeah. I needed about 12 thoughts to go navigate a whole day. Like, oh, I got to get more paint. Okay. Let's discuss the colors. Ad nauseum? No, we usually reach the color. Okay. How many coats? 1 or 2? It's not up to an infinite, 1, 2, 3. No, 2 coats the most. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Hey, Paul, we got a hand up.
Yeah.
Leanne.
Hello again. Yeah, I just wanted to say.
I just saw Volkmann. Volkmann.
Yeah, Volkmann. Volkmann means men of the village or of the folk.
Means us, right? Us, Volkmann.
Yeah, it's us, exactly. It's us. Yeah. I'm working hard on getting there, no? I wanted to say, what you said to Faith, there's this saying, I don't know if you know this one. It's she's called Florence Scovel-Shinn. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
She's American, but she lived in the last century, also through the war times, and but she is very much teaching in relation to the Bible, but in a very interesting way, not in the normal religious way. And she says, like, faith is trust in the good, and fear is trust in evil. And I was thinking, because the last time I was asking about this evil stepmother appearing all the time. Yeah. And I mean, someone came back and told me, yeah, she's my reflection. So that means actually what I see in her is me. Yeah. And I was always very trying to see, and of course, I know I'm not Mother Teresa in this lifetime, but since I was young, I could see like through the mask always. So I could see the real mask when people were really nice, but I could see behind that it wasn't really nice, yeah, really good. So I could always see that, but not really with a judgment. Now in the last years, because I was confronted with this character more personally, I could see, well, I'm afraid, I'm afraid of this character. And so, like I said, fear is trust in evil, no? So, however, it's a projection, no? What is working in us in this duality. So in me, is rather losing this projection, no? And of course, that there is no evil, in fact, and there's nothing to fear. Therefore, and then it wouldn't happen anymore, right? These situations I found myself in repeatedly, but I don't feel like, well, I can say it's, of course, I'm light and dark, no, so to say, I'm good and evil. But what do you say? Is it really such an intense projection because I don't want to face my own evilishness?
I don't know. What I would do is, if something comes up around it, bring it to step 6 and 7, because we're at a recovery meeting, and let's use the process of recovery, which is you reveal stuff. A lot of stuff is revealed to us, usually about what we're not or the underlying causes and conditions. And when we come up against that in an honest way, we are there in a certain, we have surrendered or we have admitted we're outmatched. So we just bring it to step 6 and 7 and say, hey, I'm entirely ready. This, whatever it is, this projection of your aunt, stepmother, doesn't matter, but I'm entirely ready for this to be reconfigured or changed. And I ask that higher power to do it. Yeah. And then go about your day.
Yes.
Seriously. And I have faith in step 6 and 7. I have. I have. Before I didn't have faith in 6 and 7 because I thought it would demand a lot more work. But now over the years, I've realized this idea of work is a little bit fucking overemphasized. A lot of shit can be changed without you doing much. Yeah, just by telling the truth about it. And I have such faith in the program, whatever formality that I use from the program has a lot of faith behind it. So I just do
Yes.
step 6 and 7. Yeah.
Okay.
I see this stuff more. See what happens. I have some recurring dreams that have the same theme. Now, I don't want to go into the specifics of it, but when I wake up and remember that dream, I bring it to step 6 and 7. Yeah. Because there's something going on that these dreams are reflecting. So there's a reflection of something else, which is, I feel, an underlying current there. And I'm outmatched, so I just bring it to step 6 and 7 when I wake up. I ask this power to reconfigure it. Yeah. So in other words, put it to maybe I feel like something wants to use it in one way, and I think the higher power will use it in a much more efficient, better way. So I'm just trying to change who's dealing with all my data, so to speak, and give it over to the higher power.
Yeah. Yes.
6, 7 is that. And then you look at, do you owe any amends or anything like that? And then that would lead you to 8 and 9. And if you get good at bringing shit to 6 and 7, you bypass 8 and 9 a lot because you don't owe an amend because you haven't gone there and like pooped on your stepmother's, porch or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like being, it's like a bit being in this fairy tale of Cinderella, no, being this character and yet not being able to be Cinderella. So
yeah. Well, everyone has the witch to be someone else. Yeah. So in this case, yeah, we're not saying who is what or what is who. We're bringing the whole enchilada over to the power.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes,
I've 6 and 7 are the most active steps when you're sober a while, because a lot of your underlying conditions that you were in the dark about without knowing it are brought into the light because there's value there and it wants to be recycled. And then you tell the truth about it and you bring it to 6 and 7. And so basically the head may think it's a beautiful gold object. The higher power will melt the object and then just extract the gold and put it to use. Yes. Yeah. So old resentments, old ideas about you not worthy enough or whatever, all these things, a lot of times they're shown in my life through dreaming. And then I just bring it to step 6 and 7, ask that power to change it. I don't believe energy can be destroyed. I believe it can be reconfigured. Yeah. And to me, energy is the living here. And so I ask that higher power to reconfigure it because I know what the lower power, how it reconfigures it. Yes. Yes. So I've had enough of its product line.
Yeah, it's like this also. I always think about surrender. Surrender is nothing you can do. It's just you're being brought to this moment where, you just can't or you don't want anymore. No, it's like you say, losing interest in a sense.
Well, when you start losing interest, it's going to change for sure.
Yeah.
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 See,
That
the
was an
big
interesting.
story, they had it in the Freedom from Bondage, the woman. The woman had this huge resentment about her mother, and then she gets into recovery. And for her whole life, she thought the story with the huge resentment was, I would do anything to get rid of it. And then she realized that was a fucking story. Her head was loving the resentment. It was feeding off
Yeah.
of it. It was like the
Yeah.
golden cow. And it was
Yeah, yeah.
using all these other excuses. Wow, that was an incredible revelation. And then she recognized, hey, I'm powerless over this fucker. And I'm going to start praying for that person to have everything I want and more, even if I don't mean it. And then what happened is the flavor in her own self, in her, changed through that little
Yeah.
process. And she was
Yes.
relieved of that resentment towards her mother. Yes? Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is what happens. Shit's revealed. I feel the theme of recovery was, which is I'm fucked, and there's a surrender there.
Yeah,
And you get a
exactly.
lot of power by admitting powerlessness. I think that's a theme throughout the program. I don't think you outgrow that. And that's why I think 6 and 7 goes exactly with that theme. What you see, you don't do anything about it. You bring it to 6 and 7. Yeah. 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 Hey, I got to get going soon. I got to go to a meeting.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah. Let's wrap it up, Paul.
All right. Say goodbye to everyone. James in Utah. Nice to see you, James. All's going well? Good, good. Andy, yes. Walter. Hey, thanks, Kurt. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you. We got John in Florida, Michael, Stacy in Madeira, Sean in Minnesota, Ben. Nice to see you, Ben. Saraswati. Saraswati, nice to see you. Yeah. Kerry, Sean, Mickey, John W. from Ireland, Wexford. Nice to see you, John. John, another John down below. Tom in Denver, Terry S. Patricia G. I think it's Missouri. Wow, Missouri, I think. Oh, Montana, somewhere.
Montreal.
Oh, Montreal. Oh, thank God. Wow. All right. Oliver, Berlin. Rob, Kentucky, Annette. Roman Mueller, Joseph in France. Kerry. Thank you. Wait a minute. I got to go to the other page. Phone numbers. Oliver, Patricia, we got everyone here. Mike M. Christine in Kona. Fletch, Annette. Fletch, let me know when you're getting near your year. We're going to go get chips together. All right. Annette, Rob, Joseph. Hey, everyone. If I missed you, I didn't miss you. See you. See you soon.